Today we're continuing in our journey through the book of Revelation, continuing in the vision of the throne room of heaven, and we are in Revelation 5:11 through to chapter 6 verse 8. We start with a continuation of the worship taking place around the throne. The Father is sat on his throne. Jesus, seen as both a lion and the lamb, is sat at the right hand of the Father on his throne. Around them are then four living creatures singing their songs of worship. We see that in chapter 4. Around the four living creatures are the 24 elders falling down in worship, casting their crowns before the throne of King Jesus, singing their songs. And today we read how their worship is joined by 10,000 times 10,000 angelic beings who add their song to the worship song of heaven. It's interesting moving from the elders song, the 24 elders song yesterday, to the angelic song today, how the content of the songs shift. The angels could not join in with the elders song because their song was the song of the redeemed. The redeemed people of God, you and I, have a unique song to sing, one that the angels cannot sing. Verse 13, this cascading, snowballing song of worship grows. Four creatures, 24 elders, 10,000 times 10,000 angels are now joined with every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth in a song of praise to Jesus. Now, yesterday we saw Jesus open the scroll like the title deeds to a new property, a new kingdom. He's proclaiming the start, the beginning of a new kingdom. But the thing is, the start of this new kingdom requires an ending to an old one, the ending of the old broken system. So here we have what we call the start of the tribulation. Four horsemen of the apocalypse, as they're affectionately and commonly known. They are released at the command of Jesus into the earth. Now there's a bit of debate as to who or what these four horsemen represent, particularly the first one. Many see the first rider, the rider of the white horse, as Jesus. Some see the rider as the Holy Spirit or the gospel itself, a wave of the gospel spreading out throughout the earth in the last days. Others see the first horseman as like economic prosperity or enemy invasion. The second rider on the second horse brings a wave of war across the earth. The third rider brings famine. Food becomes incredibly expensive, a sort of hyperinflation. The final rider is death, bringing a wave of destruction across the earth. 25% of the world's population are killed by sword, famine and plague. I mean, it is scary, sobering, dramatic stuff, isn't it? I think we miss the point, and I think we get into all sorts of problems when we over-apply these horsemen into events today. When we say things like, well, COVID is the plague, for example, there is something of revelation that will only be understood retrospectively. That said, I do believe in and I do long for the return of Jesus, even though we know that means things will get better before they get worse. I do believe we are in the end times. I believe that as Christians have believed that in every generation. They believe that based on the world events that had unfolded around them in their day. I mean, I was just reading the other day that the Greek word used here for the colour of the fourth horse is the word chlorine. And soldiers in the trenches in World War I saw the horrors of mustard gas, of chlorine gas, as a fulfillment of this prophecy. The early church thought that the rider was Emperor Nero, bringing destruction. Clearly, these moments were not actually the end of the world, but if Revelation serves as a reminder to live as if Jesus is imminent in every generation, then in my mind, Revelation has done its job. It's stirred the church into action as if it's the end days. I'm going to say this every time that we're in the book of Revelation. The main focus of the book is Jesus. It is a revealing of who Jesus is. And the problem with reading a little section like we've read today on the four horsemen of the apocalypse is that it can become our takeaway point, the four horsemen. But the takeaway point has to be the call to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, to get caught up in the great song of worship in heaven, to keep our eyes on the one who holds you, who sustains you, who is able to keep you until that day that he returns for you. So whatever is playing out in the world, let's live as if it's the last moment, but let's keep our eyes fixed on Jesus more than the signs of the times.